Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. So today we're going over all the VR games dropping in the month of April, and since there's just about 20 of them, I'm not going to waste your time. We're going to jump right into this. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, today's video is sponsored by MLB Home Run Derby. This game has just moved from App Lab to the official Quest store and now has 30 authentically recreated MLB stadiums to experience. There's also a full progression system with plenty of unlockables, ranked and casual online gameplay modes for up to 8 players, and of course a single player experience where you can just sit back and smack some home runs. MLB Home Run Derby is now available on the Meta Quest 2 and up, and there's a link down in the description if you want to go check it out. Here's the quick normal disclaimer. All of these release dates came from Meta, the game studios, and the Steam database. They're always subject to change. Sometimes I can't put the official date yet because it hasn't been announced. And yeah, surprises come, things get delayed, whatever the case may be. So that's done, so don't yell at me. But let's start things off like normal with this month's Quest Plus titles. If you have access to the subscription service Quest Plus, the 2 games you're getting this month are Drop Dead Dual Strike and Floor Plan 2. Drop Dead is a story-driven zombie shooter that you could play in co-op across both a horde mode and the game's full campaign. But if that's too violent for you or you're not into zombie slaying, Floor Plan 2 gives you a cute little puzzle experience. This title was recently updated for the Quest 3, plus they've also added 2 additional hours of extra content, making this a fairly lengthy puzzle experience. And just one more quick reminder to Quest Plus members, there's a truly excellent evergreen list of titles that you always have access to, including some of my favorite games like Until You Fall and Demio, but for now, let's move on to new releases. Let's start April off with the creepy puzzle experience, The Last Safe Place. The Last Safe Place offers up a combination of exploration, puzzles, and escape room as you navigate through some uncharted caverns in the 1800s. Now the trailer definitely doesn't show us much, but this could be an exciting game for those who are into this genre. Now if you want more of a straightforward escape room, we're getting Escape Simulator. Jump in solo or with up to 8 total players, as you'll have to leave no stone unturned, checking every single object in the room. The most mundane item might be the key to deciphering the puzzle and making your escape. Now when you eventually make it through the game's official content, you can go explore the over 3,000 community-made rooms, or even build your own. Now another title that lets you build your own levels is Skyclimb. Skyclimb not only has 65 single-player levels and 7 bosses to fight, but also an exciting multiplayer mode that plays out like Fall Guys. So if you enjoy that style of action, keep a lookout for this title, because it's moving from App Lab to the official Quest store in April. Now if you prefer more one-on-one competition, Quest is getting C-Smash VRS. This is like a futuristic version of Paddleball, where you can experience different gameplay modes from single-player brick breaking to online versus mode, and even an array of different co-op challenges. So if you're interested in jumping into the sport of the future, you might want to check out C-Smash. Now moving on to a very different form of competition, we have Mutant Boxing League. This title reminds me a lot of Knockout League, as you have to fight through an array of unique characters. And when you're not taking the fight to the ring, there's also an array of different mini games to explore, plus a training mode to help you perfect your moves and just break a sweat. Now if boxing's not your style, how does a good old-fashioned Western shootout sound? In the midst of an epic war, you're going to be taking on the role of a bounty hunter and a vengeful Native American warrior. Their 2 separate stories will eventually intertwine, as everyone's fighting over and chasing down artifacts that could change the overall fate of the war. This story-driven experience features both narrated cutscenes and an array of unique gameplay mechanics. Now personally, I'm not a fan of the Wild Wild West, but I gotta say this game is looking pretty darn good. But to once again move away from the blood and guts, we have Toy Monsters. Now the best way to describe this game is a made-for-VR version of Plants vs. Zombies, but if you've never played that game, this is basically a tabletop tower defense title. You'll need to strategically deploy different weapons and power-ups to fend off a horde of oncoming monsters. Now I personally love this style of game, so I'll definitely be playing this. And I'm happy to see it's getting both a mixed reality mode and hand tracking. So for the Plants vs. Zombies fans like myself, it's going to feel like you're actually playing that game in 3D on your own personal table. And since we're discussing tabletop experiences, let's move on to the player release of Dungeon Full Dive. Now if you're not familiar with Dungeon Full Dive, it's an application that allows you to create tabletop role-playing experiences. And it also has the unique feature of exploring those worlds in first-person view or isometrically as you would a real tabletop game board. Now the game has been separated into both the Player and Dungeon Master edition, so players can jump in and experience the title for free, but if you want to be a GM and build some worlds, you'll have to pay for that separately. Now if you want to stick to more typical experiences, we have the 4v4 PvP shooter Strike Rush. Strike Rush will drop you into a post-apocalyptic world where you get to utilize some AI robots in combat. Now there's currently 4 separate stages, and even 4 single-player maps if PvP isn't your style. but I do have to say what I did see of this game in its recent beta was looking pretty rough. Hopefully they did have some time to clean it up because I do enjoy team-based shooters. I guess we'll find out soon enough. Similar to our next title, Umurangi Generation. I think I said that right. This is a really weird looking photography title. It was originally a flat screen game that has been rebuilt for VR, and it takes place in a really crappy future where you go around spraying graffiti and taking pictures. You'll eventually unlock new lenses and other equipment, but I have to say, I really have no idea what the overall gameplay is like. So moving on to a game that I could definitely understand, we have Big Shots. This is a mech piloting VR roguelite where you're up against hordes of alien creatures. It focuses on high-speed gameplay and movement. You'll get access to both temporary and permanent buffs. And the feature I'm most excited about is the full campaign is playable in co-op. I know the roguelite genre is really overdone in VR, but it's rare that we get to play it with a friend. I'm also a really big fan of the near cel-shaded cartoon-style graphics, so I'm definitely planning to try this one out. Now the next title I'm much more reluctant on, even though it looks pretty damn cool. It's described as a VR tactical action game where you're battling for the fate of the world. Now my skepticism of this game steps in because it's made by Thirdverse, the studio that brought us both Swords of Gargantua and Alt Airbreaker. While both titles did include some cool features, they were both extremely grindy and lacking content. I'm scared this title will be all flash with no real substance and crappy mechanics. But I definitely hope I'm wrong here because the trailer does look pretty darn cool. But who knows, maybe Thirdverse will actually surprise us this time. Now moving on, we have the co-op zombie shooter, The Flip. Now I'm definitely down for a co-op shooter, but come on, more zombies. On top of that, this is kind of looking like a Rec Room experience and pretty darn generic. I hope I'm wrong though and the overall gameplay is pretty solid, because honestly that's easily the most important aspect of the game. I guess this is a perfect time for me to ask you guys to chime in. Let me know in the comments with The Flip looks good or The Flip looks bad. Now moving towards the end of April, we're getting Retropolis 2, Never Say Goodbye. The sequel continues the storyline of the robot detective Philip Log. In this interactive puzzle story experience, you'll be once again navigating the neon-lit streets with a brand new case to unfold. Now this title is also 100% hand-painted, utilizing over 2.5 million virtual brushstrokes, so every single scene is also meant to be a piece of art. Now if this doesn't sound like your style and you're more of a fan of classic arcade games, well then you should check out Arcade Paradise. Arcade Paradise is transporting you back to the 1990s with some retro-fueled games and a nice bit of nostalgia. The title features some light sim mechanics as you take a rundown shop and turn it into a thriving arcade. This includes everything from cleaning the place up, performing some day-to-day tasks, and of course unlocking and adding bigger and better arcade attractions. So if you enjoy both sim mechanics and old school arcade games, this title sounds like your paradise. Now moving on from my terrible pun, we saved the best game for last. The new potential Battle Royale king, Contractors Showdown, is on the way. It's taking their classic military style action, but now you have to land on a big open map and fight to be the last man standing. 60-person combat is something we've really never seen before in VR, and while I've only played a little bit of this game so far, I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing. Now that right there was today's video. I'd love to know which game you're most excited about. Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing.